Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Hey, good evening and welcome, everybody. It's Ukraine Update here on the Shills, and we're going to go right to Operator Starsky because, unfortunately, terrorism doesn't rest for the holidays. Starsky, how's things over there, buddy?
Hi, everyone. So this morning we had another missile strike in Ukraine, and it happened directly during the New Year's Eve. And I think it started before the noon, around 11, something like that. A bit unexpected, but actually yesterday I think our chief of military intelligence talked about it. He said that they might attempt to perform such a strike during the New Year's Eve. And basically this is what happened this morning. And the air alert lasted for 3 or 4 hours. Multiple rockets were launched, missiles were launched from the territory of the Caspian Sea, as well as ground-based missile systems. And 7 of them were intercepted over Kiev. Unfortunately, some hits were made as well. And we know that a hotel was damaged, a luxury hotel, that as soon as it happened in the Russian media, they started saying that they actually hit a NATO base that was located in this luxury hotel in the Kyiv downtown. One of the Japanese journalists who lived in this hotel was wounded. He got evacuated. And a lot of residential buildings and civilian structures were damaged today, including 2 schools, 1 kindergarten in Kiev. Also, there was a huge missile strike in the Protasiev Yar in Kiev. It's a small district, but multiple residential houses were destroyed and damaged as well. We know that about 20 people were wounded because of this strike. They used less missiles today, something around 20 missiles. We know that at least one of them hit Russian village because it landed in Russia, and it didn't reach Ukraine. And as soon as this attack happened, we know that Russian air bases in the occupied Crimea were hit by unknown forces, and there was what we call in Ukraine cotton, right? A lot of cotton happened there. So we know that Jankoy Air Base, Yevpatoria, and Simferopol were hit by cotton.
I remember your video explaining cotton from a little while back. I remember that very, very well. There can't be any argument about the whole Russian being a terrorist state anymore, with the countless civilian targets being hit. I know pre-show we were talking about their ability to aim, and there was some funny jokes made, but I mean, and I guess you could chalk quite a bit of it up to just, old useless things that aren't really that accurate anymore, but you can't justify all of them that way. There's no way. It's obvious targeting, in my opinion.
Yeah. Of course, and the situation is following. They lose a lot of people every day. So in the past 24 hours, they lost more than 700 men dead, 2 or 3 times more wounded. And because of this situation in Russia, people understand that the end is near. Basically, Russia is economically, politically, diplomatically becomes more and more isolated, and they're losing a lot of men every day. The coffins keep coming to Russia, and then this mobilization, and actually there's a lot of anxious people in Russia right now because they realize that this war is not going according to plan. And the only thing Putin can do to make his citizens happy is to basically strike Ukraine with cruise missiles. And after each strike, I just go and read all of those beautiful commentaries left by beautiful citizens of Russia that celebrate, that cheer and enjoy. And basically, that's the only thing that Putin's regime can do to keep his rating, to make Russians happy, is striking Ukraine with cruise missiles.
Yeah, Nick, please.
I was happy or distracted. One way or the yeah.
How with it being New Year's and all, is there anybody in Ukraine that's able to enjoy themselves for it, or is it mostly just ruined and everybody just wants this shit?
No, it's not ruined, and because this time they specifically selected civilian targets like residential buildings, hotels, and schools, our power grid wasn't damaged, luckily, and people have every opportunity to celebrate. And again, because they didn't use as many missiles as previous time, 2 days ago, they shot 70 missiles at Ukrainian cities. Basically, we don't have as many casualties as previous time. So people use every opportunity to celebrate. We have power, we have water heating and stuff like that. Actually, I heard music playing just a couple of blocks away. There are, those lanterns, houses, and stuff like that. So people celebrate as much as we can do. Even during this missile strike, in the bomb shelters, I saw videos of that. There was Santa Claus with his elves, and they were entertaining kids while this missile strike was happening. Wow. So so it's not like Ukrainians are gonna cry or freeze, right, or anything like that.
Good. It's a great thing to know that with all this going on, that there can still be some enjoyment for some of the things in life. I like that. You need it, right? Anything you can do to bring some normalcy back to life must just be a must, right?
Of course, the biggest motivation for Ukrainians is understanding that we have future, unlike Russians. And Russians also understand that. They understand that they cannot redo or undo what they did, and they cannot finish it the way they want it. And I think that majority of Russians already feel this, this anticipation of what's coming to their country.
Let's see here. I'm pretty sure that Commander McMillan and Nick would both have lots to get in with now. We should make sure to open the floodgates for us all. And they leave me hanging. Are you kidding?
Yeah, so I was waiting for Nick.
Yeah, ready to go.
Had to reach for the mute button there. That never overestimate or underestimate my ability to miss the mute button. Well, so oh dear Lord. So let's see. Well, we had been talking about accuracy, and I think obviously Commander McMillan knows a great deal more about that than I do, but they appear to, I mean, the missiles are, if you just send them in the direction of a city that's all civilian targets, they don't have to be that accurate. And you can't say that they specifically may have hit this building or that building, but you know, they certainly are targeting the cities, and some of them they still have, to the best of my understanding, and I think McMillan can clarify on this, but to the best of my understanding, still have some of the much more accurate missiles, probably not the ones that, as you had said, McMillan, can you know, actually target a specific room on a specific floor. They may be out of those, but so where are they on in terms of well, actually, let me ask you two questions. Where are they in terms of their missiles right now? And the Patriots, are Patriots on the way, and how effective are those going to be?
Patriot is on the way. How many systems they're going to send, I'm not sure. I've heard as few as one. I've heard as many as 8. I'm sure the number that actually arrives will be somewhere in the middle. The Patriot will give them a definite asset that they don't have in their inventory right now, which is the ability to intercept ballistic type missiles, because I don't think any of the other air defense missiles they have are capable of doing that. And when I say a ballistic missile, it's like a longer range, high altitude, falls to earth kind of missile, so to speak, an ICBM or an IRBM kind of thing. Because when those missiles descend, they come down at such a ridiculously high rate of speed that other missiles are incapable of effectively intercepting them. Patriot does give them that ability. It's also very good at intercepting higher speed targets, irregardless of the trajectory the weapon is being used. So that will give them a capability that I think will help the Ukrainians fill a void that they have in their current air defense network. As I think I expressed in previous discussions, the one concern, though, is that each individual missile from a Patriot system is $4 million. You have to,
Whoa.
they're very expensive. So you have to be extremely careful about what you're using it on. Firing a $4 million missile at a $50,000 Iranian drone makes no sense from an economic standpoint.
Indeed.
You're actually hurting yourself by doing it in some ways. And so you end up with this very complicated targeting problem of trying to sort wheat from chaff, moving at very high speeds coming in at you. So yeah, it will help them, but it's how well it's integrated into the rest of the system. And I think thus far the Ukrainians have shown a superb ability to integrate new systems of all sorts into their military, be it, you know, U.S. HIMARS systems or artillery that isn't the same as their previous Soviet era artillery they had, and so forth. So I think all that will work nicely, but it will take a little bit of time to get it all working correctly, if you get my meaning. The other side of your question, which is what are we talking about for the Russian missiles? They only have a limited inventory of this kind of stuff, and they've been firing massive barrages of, you know, 80, 100 missiles at a time. They're starting to deplete the higher end stuff because they're using it so much, and they don't have the ability to replace it, because many of these are systems they did not sell to anybody else, or if they did, it's to countries that aren't really friendly with them right now, so they're not going to be able to buy them back for their own use. And with the sanctions in place, having the ability to procure the necessary high-tech parts to make additional missiles is really outside their capability. So that end of it will be decreasing. I think they will try to make up for that by firing more and more lower tech missiles, which are more and more inaccurate, which means more and more collateral damage. Even if you're giving the Russians the benefit of the doubt and saying, oh yeah, they're actually trying to shoot at, quote, legitimate, unquote, military targets, if your accuracy is that bad, that it's not going to be anything other than causing collateral damage. It's like in World War II, the strategic bombing, you know, the B-17s and all the movies you've seen. A lot of people don't realize those bombs being dropped by those heavy bombers were considered to be successfully on target if they landed within 1 mile of the intended target.
Wow.
Jesus.
What
Yeah.
the hell? Really?
Oh, yes. No, absolutely. And that was for the Americans. The British, who were bombing at night, it was like 5 miles of the intended aiming point was considered a successful drop. So weapons have improved greatly since then, but at the same time, the idea is you can say, oh yeah, we were accurate because we dropped it within the circle that we drew of, yeah, this counts as a hit, but are you actually hitting the intended target of a factory, a power generation thing, a bridge? Who knows? Probably not. You probably destroyed the farmhouse that was next to the bridge or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the mathematics that we're dealing with. And as the inventory of higher tech weapons in the Russian depots decreases, you're going to get more and more and more inaccuracy and a lot more collateral damage, I think.
Well, so I had a couple of questions for Starsky while we got him here, but you also have a super chat. So I don't know what order you want to do this in.
Well, let's do the super chat, and then Claire also has a question that was for Starsky, and then we'll send right back over to yourself, Nick.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you. From level 70 for 27.99. I don't understand the reluctance of NATO to send long-range weapons to Ukraine. The Russians provided all kinds of weapons to Vietnam and North Korea against the US. They even provided planes and pilots. Sorry for the rant. Well, thank you. Don't be sorry. Like, rant away. Like, I don't understand it either. Question for you, Starsky, from the chat from RC. Cluster munitions have a bad name because they leave unexploded pieces, but Ukraine is asking for them. What do you think of this?
So cluster munitions are used mostly against personnel and light armored vehicles, and because Russia uses a lot of troops on our territory, sometimes concentrated in the same area. Like, for example, a couple of weeks ago, we have destroyed a building that was used as barracks by Wagnerites, and a couple hundreds of them became better. So we need those weapons as well. Of course, not only cluster munitions are bad. Okay, all kinds of weapons are bad. Sometimes people find landmines, hand grenades, and I'm talking about civilians, and accidents happen, unfortunately. But we need those weapons to fight specifically against Russian personnel and their vehicles.
Cool. Claire, there was a donation that came in as well. Do you want to grab that before we send to Nick?
Yes, surely. From Raven7, donated $10. Thank you very much. We will all be here supporting Ukraine until the victory. Thanks, Shills, Starsky, and all in the community. And thank you, Raven7. Oh,
Big thanks.
wonderful.
Awesome.
Mhm.
All right. I think Nick has waited long enough.
Well, now I guess a couple of questions for Starsky. So first of all, the head Ukrainian intelligence officer said that the war was essentially at a stalemate. Can you tell me what do you think he meant by that, and give us some clarification?
Yes, so at this point, it turned into a positional warfare mostly because Russians don't have enough troops and enough power to attack in several directions. They mostly conduct defensive operations. They improve their fortifications and things like that. At the same time, Ukrainian troops cannot conduct full-scale counteroffensive because we require more vehicles, more armored vehicles, not so much in terms of personnel, but in terms of vehicles and artillery, we need more to effectively conduct counteroffensive operations, because you cannot just concentrate all the troops in some specific area and perform offensive, for example, because according to all kinds of military manuals, you need to do that along the full front line. So the front line must be even at all times. And we stick to that rule. We don't do anything to put our guys in danger of being cut off from the rest of the troops and things like that.
So, all right, that makes sense. So, it's been now 310 days since the invasion started. It is the new year, so everyone is thinking about what's going to happen in the next year. What can you tell me about sort of the low end and high end, most optimistic and most pessimistic assessment of where Ukraine and Russia are going to end up in the coming year?
Personally, my most optimistic anticipation is tomorrow, as usual. But realistically, I think it's between March and September 2023.
And so now, what do you think? Is that for expelling them completely? Is that for Putin sort of deciding this was a really bad idea and bailing, or what are you hoping for?
Let
me interrupt. I know what you're hoping for, which is the complete expulsion of all of them. So let me rephrase that and say, what do you think realistically? What are the goals for that period of time?
So first of all, we need our anti-air defense strong enough to be able to intercept more of their missiles. So each of their missile strike would be a failure for them. And another thing is our goal is to eliminate as much of their personnel so they cannot continue their operations on the territory of Ukraine, and then liberate the rest of the occupied territories. And the thing is, if it continues as it goes, right, if Russia keep losing 2,000, 2,500 dead and wounded every day, like they do now, then before March, I think around March, it may be possible to liberate all those territories we were talking about, unless Russians invent something else. Maybe they implement some kind of new strategy, because they're learning as well. And we also know that they will probably start another mobilization after 5th of January next year. So this can influence our expectations as well.
And I know there's another guest here, Mr. PacMan, Lancer PacMan, who is gracing us. So I'd like to ask a question that I think is going to apply to both Mr. PacMan and I think I've got the name correct. I think that's right. I'm confident in that. We know that China has been kind of waffling with Russia, and they've kind of listed Ukraine as at least one of the reasons. I think they're also obviously a little shocked that Russia was so utterly incompetent. So, Starsky, what are your thoughts as to what appears to be once again the bringing together of China and Russia, and does that concern you? And I also wanted to ask Mr. PacMan, sorry, Commander PacMan. I want to be respectful. So, Commander PacMan, if there is what he is thinking about the China situation, and if he's got any concerns. And by the way, I forgot to mention, this is actually from the live chat. It's so I just wanted to ask those questions. So, Starsky, please take it away.
I think that because this brings China profit, they will trade with Russia and supplying them with something like uniforms and MREs and things like that. But we are not talking about weapons. We are not talking about shells. And we also know that before March, they will have a big deficit in supplying their artillery with 122 and 152 millimeter shells. So China will not trade weapons, will not supply weapons to Russia, but they still receive profit from supplying them with other things. And as we know, China cares about China in the first place.
Very much so, yeah.
And Commander PacMan.
Well, I'm going to start by asking where PacMan came from. But
it says here, it says Lancer Pac. Oh, it says MacMan.
Glasses, Nick.
I'm terribly sorry for.
Okay, there we go.
Please be aware that I never ever. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I try never to offend accidentally. Please.
Okay, so China. I think China's going to play this to their maximum benefit, and I don't think they really care about the outcome of the conflict in Ukraine, other than how it may weaken or distract the United States, because right now they're doing a lot of stuff in the Pacific, both in terms of posturing and threatening Taiwan, and also stuff going on in the South China Sea and the Spratlys and the Paracels and such. So that's, I think, their chief focus right now is that aspect of it. So whatever they can sell to the Russians, which doesn't impact their own military strength, just on the off chance that they're going to need all those military assets for themselves, they'll be happy to do. So there's a lot of speculation right now, for example, that they're selling the Russians a lot of winter gear, tents, sleeping bags, uniforms, that kind of stuff, because the Russians were so ill prepared for that kind of stuff. There have been intelligence analysts who've noticed there's a surprisingly large number of Russian military transport planes that are flying to China, and then less than half of them are returning to Russia in terms of filing flight plans and so forth. So the speculation is, because obviously they're not leaving all these transport planes sitting on the ground inside China, the speculation is that they are doing covert flights back with all this gear. They know that there's a problem in equipping all the conscripts and reservists, etc., that they're bringing in. So that's possibly what they're doing, is taking those non-military items, non-weapon items, I should say, and equipping their own personnel with those, because they don't have the capability, since so many of their factories and such are shut down because they don't have the materials to operate because of the sanctions. So that's something that's going on. But I don't think there's a lot of military hardware that's going back to Russia, because, as I said, I think the Chinese feel a need to hang on to it themselves. One of the lessons learned that's going to come out of this war is that the expenditure of ordnance, ammunition of all types, but in particular artillery ammunition, is way, way more than anybody believed was going to be the case. In particular, this is going to be true for NATO, because NATO and the US always operated under the assumption that most of the ordnance they needed to deliver explosive-wise would be done by air power. But now they're finding, okay, if you don't have command of the air, you're going to rely very, very heavily on artillery. And we don't have the stocks built up, nor do we have the production capability in place to bring ammunition online in the quantities we need as rapidly as we ought to. So, and that goes back to one of the earlier questions that you had asked about the idea of cluster munitions and such, because a cluster munition can be used to make up for the fact that your ordnance is not particularly accurate. Now, that's not necessarily true of NATO equipment, because we have the ability to turn virtually every artillery shell or mortar bomb into a precision weapon that can be targeted at a specific target. But if you don't have a target to throw those things at, precision weaponry isn't going to make any damn difference. What you're trying to do is saturate an area with ordnance. And a cluster munition is something that works very well in doing that. So if you want to suppress the enemy in a trench line or something, firing cluster munitions at that is a great way to get them to put their heads down, so then you can conduct an assault or something on that position.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the whole idea here is that the need for ammunition is becoming more and more and more important in this conflict. Now, there's a lot of, in the West, and not just Western in terms of like NATO and American, but other countries who aren't even a part of those alliances, who are capable of and do produce NATO type, in terms of caliber, ordnance. Less so for the Russian side. About the only person that thus far they've been able to tap into is North Korea. And North Korea has a huge ability to produce that kind of ordnance, 122, 152, all those calibers that go to Russian guns. And that's one of the reasons you're seeing so much activity there. It's that they have the capability, they being the North Koreans, to take it out of their stocks and build new stuff to replace it. So that's what's going on there.
We should get Claire in. We've got a couple of amazing shouts to do, and we're caught up then.
Oh, yes, thank you. From Mormule, for Danish krone of 500. Shiba Dog jumping in the air with fireworks around him. Big super sticker. Thank you very much. A member for 2 months. We appreciate that. Stephen Walsh, a new member. Welcome to Shill Apprentice. And for $100 contribution, a question for Starsky. I know you don't like the cold, but would you ever consider visiting the Arctic? Also, what else can we ask of our congressional delegates? Excellent question. Thank you, Stephen.
I would love to visit Arctic, but I would hate to like live in a trench in the Arctic. That's different things. So yeah, why not?
Mm. And what would you like us to ask all of our congressional delegates everywhere?
I would like to ask for weapons,
Mhm.
because that's probably the most important thing that we need right now: weapons and vehicles and artillery.
Thank you so much. And we have one more from Zong 1103. Russia recently raised the age of recruitment to 30, but haven't they been sending men that age since the beginning of the war? Some of those POWs look very old. Thank you very much, Zong. Is that an actual question about the age? Is that actually the age of recruitment there?
I think the upper limit of their age-wise, okay,
Mhm.
of their recruits was something about 55,
Wow.
something like that.
I guess
Wow.
that's why those POWs are looking kind of old. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we're caught up, Dick.
All right.
That said, there are also recorded cases of recruits in their 60s
Really?
being sent there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because when the local recruiting center is told, we need you to provide X number of bodies, they just go out and grab whoever they need off the streets. And if it's an old gent who's a pensioner with, a kidney condition, we don't care. Put
Yeah.
them in uniform, and we can check our box that we've,
Yeah.
sent the number of requisite troops.
Mm.
Yeah,
Crazy.
nobody cares, and there will be absolutely no problem about grabbing those people. Remember when this invasion started, and plenty of Russian conscripts were captured, and Putin was saying that in the beginning, he was saying that there are no conscripts involved into this invasion, but then when everybody started talking about this, he said, well, yeah, there were a couple of conscripts by mistake, happens.
A couple. Jesus.
Hmm.
Claire.
Yes. Brandy Robertson from the chat would like to ask a question for the world for you, Starsky. Does anyone on the panel have the slightest clue as to what NATO's hard line is to properly stop this mess? She's asking for the world.
Yeah, for me, I've been saying since day one, I understand why I'm wrong, but to me, I think that NATO should be more than just a members only club at this point. I don't see a problem. I get it, I do, but
You
here's
mean
when
they're
Nick's
in
gonna give me
action?
shit.
No, you mean just like them all talk, no bark, like no
Yeah,
sanctions. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I,
Mm.
I definitely, whatever I say is probably going to pale in comparison to Commander McMillan's answer. So I'll try to make it brief, because I don't know what finally end it means, because the concern is, of course, if they enter, that it only escalates things and make things worse. So if the question is, what does it take for them to at least put up to engage on some level, whether it's a no-fly zone or something like that, I think it takes the use of a chemical weapon or a nuclear weapon, and I think that's actually explicitly why we haven't seen them used yet, because they informed Russia. They said, this is our line, and they meant it, and Putin figured out that they meant it. If you cross it, we will enter on some level, probably starting with a no-fly zone and moving from that. But to end it, I don't even know exactly what that means, but McMillan would have a great, better understanding of this than I would.
There's an enormous reluctance in NATO to get involved because, first off, NATO is a defensive organization. And a lot of the countries who are in there are concerned about getting involved in the current conflict, because Ukraine isn't currently a member, and therefore joining on their side to some extent would constitute in their minds an offensive action. I'm not saying I agree with that rationale, but I'm pretty sure that is a significant factor in a lot of governments' minds. You've got to remember that, you know, for a country like, let's say, Latvia or Poland, the crisis in Ukraine is right there on their border, and it's an existential threat to them.
Yes.
But to a NATO member like, say, Spain or Portugal, the threat is much less proximate and therefore less a threat, and there's fear about getting involved. The second part of the equation, which is probably even more concerning to most countries, is that NATO getting involved is an escalation that would directly threaten Russia, and that immediately raises the specter of escalation to a strategic nuclear exchange. So that, I think, those are the two principal reasons why they don't get directly involved. Now, I agree with Nick. I think that there have been very clear delineations made, probably not publicly, but certainly from behind the scenes to the Russians, that if you cross these red lines, we will get directly involved. And I think that's why, even though you've seen all of this posturing going on the part of, you know, Putin and some of the other hardline ultra nationalists and everything about, yeah, we'll use nuclear weapons and we'll put an end to this thing, and it doesn't happen, even though they're making all of these threats, is because they're fully aware that if they do cross that threshold, they're pretty much doomed. So they don't want to escalate either. So as long as the conflict remains confined to just Ukraine and just Russia, it's less threatening to everybody.
Yes, on that, before I turn it to you, Starsky, to weigh in on that, it is true that hasn't NATO from the start, like even back in 2014, they have firmly adopted a position of full support for Ukraine's sovereignty, you know, and they are saying in writing and verbally that that territorial integrity should be recognized within those borders itself. Like they're not pro-Russia on this at all. And I think that is the line in the sand that both of you with more experience in military, all three of you, are saying that nuclear weapons, like they're not going to go there. And it's because of NATO. But NATO is not actually a physical involvement kind of thing. That's like a last resort, because you're right. Like that tips the scales too far. And they're supposed to work on neutral resolution among guidelines, right? Like they're not supposed to physically get involved anyway. You know, from what I understand, but they are making strong statements, and I see them all the time for Ukraine, and not for what Russia's doing at all. Is that the same feeling you get, Starsky, from NATO?
Yes, of course. We don't have much questions to NATO in this regard because, again, Ukraine is not a member of NATO. There are very distant countries that are members of NATO, and they don't really feel the impact of this war. But we rather have more questions to organizations like the UN, okay? Because, yes, NATO has absolutely nothing to do with Ukraine, despite our partnership programs and mutual exercises and things like that. But technically, we're not a member. On the other hand, Ukraine traded 1,600 nuclear warheads for guarantees of its security, right? And because we made this agreement, we require involvement of the UN peacekeepers and UN forces to finish this war. But because Russia is present in the UN Security Council, we cannot do that because they're vetoing all the decisions and things like that. That's why the UN is completely useless in this regard.
Mhm.
So we need to try to convince the UN members to do something because the UN requires reforms basically, and it requires reforms for many decades already because it doesn't do its main purpose, which is keeping peace and ending wars, right? That's their main goal. So that's the main question, basically. NATO, yes, it's a completely different structure. Basically, we need to put more effort into reconstructing the UN and the Security Council of the UN.
Yeah. Yeah. Start with kicking Russia out and then move from there.
Yeah.
I would
Thank you.
be very cautious about that because then you end up in a situation as we had with the League of Nations.
That's actually very true. And I do agree. It was just a snide remark on my part. It wasn't actually,
trust me,
a good one.
I
but
feel
yeah.
that way having actually worked with the UN,
Yeah.
peacekeeping
Oh,
forces and such.
Commander, there was
Yeah.
a couple people that thanked you for your service in the Coast Guard. Your pre-show chat with the sweater was fucking correct. I give you a moment just to let everybody know your real credentials because I think they're a bit
I'm
more
Navy.
worthy.
The reason
Yeah.
you see that little picture with USCG on it is because my last tour of duty was as a liaison to Pacific Area Headquarters for the Coast Guard. And a cheap sweatshirt is a cheap sweatshirt.
I would be very interested, Commander, in you briefly explaining just who you are and what your background is.
Sure.
Yeah.
I joined the Navy in 1980. I served for 25 years. During that time, I rose to the rank of Commander 05. I attended both the Naval War College and the Joint Staff and Command College. I'm a fully accredited Joint Services officer. So technically, I'm supposed to know everything about working with any one of the U.S. uniformed services. Let's see, my specialties when I was in service in the Navy was primarily in either amphibious operations or joint operational logistics. So moving forces to a theater and keeping them supplied once they're in theater. So that's my basic background.
Cool. I think we need to go to Claire here for some shout outs, don't we?
We do have a few. Yes, we do. Oh, why is it not coming up? Okay, from Mondo Cool Cat, we have for $5. Let's give Ukraine a couple of Abrams armor brigades already. That's oh my gosh, I just lost it. Where'd it go? That's 60 tanks a brigade with their own logistic vehicles and specialists. Yes, that sounds good. That actually sounds really good. And from Stephen Walsh, Stephen Walsh again for 100. With this gang of terrorists, is there a worry going into 2023 that if NK or Iran, no, I believe that's North Korea or Iran, makes a mistake as huge as Russia, it starts to spread us thin? This is what I worry about, and with our support of Ukraine.
Starsky? That's a good one.
Absolutely, because Russia basically what it does now is it's giving a bad example to other countries, countries like Iran and North Korea, that can see that basically UN is useless and you can strike other countries and invade them and say all kinds of bullshit in your media, and nobody cares. So it's a very bad example for other maniacs, like Khamenei, for example, in Iran, that they can do whatever they can and they can be unpunished for that.
Okay. Oh, in from thank you for that, Starsky. From Barboko 66614, Biden makes a remark to the effect that providing ATACMs could result in the breakup of NATO. No mention of the NATO member that objects. I think that's a statement, but does anybody want to say anything about that?
I'm honestly confused by the statement. I wish that we could get a clearer definition of what he's trying to say.
Yeah, they are not saying who said it, so it's going to be hard to research, but I'll Google after and see if I can find you anything. From Cats for £5, Slava Ukraine and Puck Putin. And thank you, Cats, for that. And we're caught up, Dick.
Well, we just had one come in. Sam.
Oh, did
Sam
we?
Sam just jumped in right at the last minute there.
Sam, okay, for New Zealand, 169.99. Nice round number there, Sam. Shout out to Ukrainians. They're all heroes, the military and the civilians, for their bravery and resilience. When I check on the people I talk to if they're okay during strikes, they make me feel better, which is so backwards. We believe in them. Eternal memory to the heroes. Thank you. And I share your sentiment, Sam, as well as I think everybody. And thank you for writing it all in English. No Google Translate for me. Okay, one more. That was wonderful, Sam. One more from Zong 1103. Starsky, always appreciate your YouTube community posts, keeping us all informed. Finding out Dmitry Rogozin got some spicy shrapnel was a great Christmas gift.
Agreed.
And yeah, actually, I have a small update on that. There are rumors. I cannot confirm them, but there are rumors that actually he received numerous fragments into his crotch, and he could have lost his wiener, basically.
Well, could you remind us who he is and what happened?
So Rogozin was a Russian Elon Musk. He was Russian chief of their space program, and that's the dude who mocked Elon Musk a lot, and he was talking about trampoline and things like that. And he's a well-known anti-Semite and Nazi in Russia because he was member of РНЕ, Русское национальное единство, is a far-right organization that I think was pronounced extremist in Russia. And there are numerous pictures of Rogozin attending those meetings of this organization and shouting things against Jews. And at some point, he decided to. So he was fired, I think, from the space program recently, and he decided to go to Donbass and celebrate his birthday with numerous Russian military advisors. And I think HIMARS strike finished his birthday. His birthday was a blast, in a word.
Oh dear God!
And and he received a bunch of fragments to his head, ass, and I think crotch.
Well, that does get me to a question I wanted to ask. We've seen, some footage of people trying to get by and live a normal life in Ukraine, and we've talked about how that's really the goal. But there's been some, especially by conservatives in the U.S., a blowback from that, saying, "Well, gee, if things are so bad, why are they joking? Why are they?" And by the way, the most gallows humor I've ever heard is from like EMTs, doctors who are working on patients, and it's a survival mechanism. So telling jokes and joking, at least it strikes me as a survival mechanism. And Yeah, I've heard a couple of jokes, and you've made a couple of jokes. So, were there any jokes that you could think of that maybe you could tell us? And but before you do, what is your view on people criticizing, saying like, oh wow, they're dancing because they've killed Russians, or they're telling jokes? What do you have to say about that?
I have to say this: those people wake up in their warm houses because they have heating. They go online using their gadgets because they have electricity, they have internet, and then they find some kind of videos on YouTube again because they have internet 24/7. They don't realize that in Ukraine people have to charge their power banks to be able to communicate at all. And of course they can criticize because it's very easy to criticize other people when you have normal life. Your kids go to school, they don't have to worry about missile strikes, they don't have to go to sleep wearing winter jackets, winter boots, hats, and things like that. And of course they can go to school. In Ukraine, sometimes when we don't have internet, when our communication towers die, they cannot even study remotely. We still have some connection. We can use phone, not always, but sometimes. But as for internet, there's none. And it's very easy for those people to criticize because they don't. They completely don't have understanding of what's happening here. That's the reason why our president invites all kinds of politicians, diplomats, presidents, prime ministers, and other authorities to Ukraine. And as soon as they come to Ukraine, they always change their mind after seeing Bucha, Borodyanka, Izum.
Well, and the only problem with that is that the people who are most going to sit on their thrones and sit there and say, I can't believe at the jokes and the celebrating the death of Russians on Ukrainian soil, I may add. Those people are the ones who are never going to take up Zelensky on that invitation.
Yeah.
So any interesting jokes or anything funny to entertain us with, or no?
I've got something that everybody has to see. Is this a good time for it?
Yeah.
Here, let me just, I want to make sure the audio comes over to everybody here and whatnot. This was, I think Allie sent me this. Yeah, Allie sent me this. I'm positive. Let me just get it all up here. So, where's the damn button? I don't have the button. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Oh, no. It's all cropped and shit. Hold on there, everybody. There we go. This is like this is cutting news. Ukraine scientists are developing a drone to lure Russian invaders from their positions and lead them back to Russia.
Stop!
It's a
A flying toilet.
wow.
A lot of smart folks over there in Ukraine there, Starsky. That's good.
Yeah. There were a couple jokes that I shared with Nick the other day. So it's after death, Russians who behaved bad on Earth, after death, they go to Russia.
Oh, that's still, yeah. And if you know anything about Russia, we had mentioned this before. I think half the people who are fighting for the Russian army on the front lines, it's to get out of Russia. It's better. It's just the culture there is so depressing. The everything there. That's why they drink so much. And I think but I can foresee, the bad Russian soldiers, when they die, they go back to Russia. Oh dear Lord.
Yeah, and there was another one. I'm not sure if I already told this one, but in Ukrainian language we have different genders for our words and objects, and we were discussing what's the best name for female orc. Because, for example, in Ukrainian language, there are words that have gender that does not correspond to its subject. For example, female colonel ranks in Ukrainian language are all male, right? And if a female is a colonel, we pronounce her as colonel, which is male, and her name, which is female. So it's kind of difficult, and that's why we're trying to change words so they would address so you know, to fix this problem.
Well, I've got a perfect one for Russian female soldiers. It's ditch pig.
No, it's a better one. So
okay.
So orc is in Ukrainian language, orc is always male, right? Dog is always male. And orc is also always male, and we were discussing what is the best word for female orc, and we were inventing words like orchessa, orkinia, and you know, so they would correspond to the rules of the Ukrainian language. So as a conclusion, we realized that the best way of calling female orcs according to the rules of Ukrainian language is widow.
Ching.
That's awesome.
The Ukrainians will murder you with their sense of humor. Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, Claire, I think we have another big super chat, don't we?
Yes, we do. One second. Yes, we do. From Stephen Walsh for 100. Starsky, would you ever consider doing a joint interview with your dad, talking about Chernobyl and his service? That'd be cool to hear more about.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, guys, I consider doing that, but unfortunately, my dad's health doesn't allow it. That's why he mostly writes texts and articles. But as for the live interview, unfortunately it's impossible.
No, we're sorry to hear that. We're sorry to hear that. We wish him well. We really do. Charming.
Yeah, damn right. There was a couple things that I was trying to remember pre-show. And you know, coming up for New Year's in a bit here, we're going to do some play stream. And I had a whole bunch of gags that I did up and like ball dropping and all. And I was going to end the show today with a Happy New Year ball that dropped and it was going to explode open. I had it all done and everything. And then there was going to be like a missile truck shooting down some Russian jets. And all of the damn work I did making all of these gags and stuff for New Year's and today are all dead and gone because they were on a hard drive that literally died during the night. And this morning, everything's corrupted and gone.
Oh, well.
Yeah, fun.
That's
but, you know.
Well, that's one way to end the year. Hopefully it's better tomorrow. I got a question for Starsky from the chat, if you don't mind. From RC. And I think it's good for right now. For Starsky, if there was one urgent, specific thing, you know, like night goggles or generators or etc., that individuals can give to Ukraine right now, what would it be?
Long-range missiles.
I don't think individuals can give you long-range missiles.
Yeah, hold on. Let me get on that. Let me check the garage.
I got a couple spares up in my garage.
I was going to say, they're not going to be the kind you actually want. Like, you know, if you get them from individuals, no. But I mean, like, just the individual, though. Is there anything that is better this time of year or currently that might be needed? Besides weapons, we know that. And we're working with our delegates on that, but
No. I was just asking, just in
yeah,
case.
just in
Maybe.
But yeah,
I-
but you do understand like American and Canadian humor, and even some of the English. You ask for missile projections from an individual, you don't know. You're going to get things you don't really want. You know
Yeah,
this,
this
I've
is
right?
the U.S. We have the Second Amendment here. You got to be a little careful about
Yeah,
what you
in a couple of weeks, when the UPS driver shows up at your door, you may want to be careful about opening the box.
Hopefully, they bring the NDA and the consent paperwork before they drop that package off. But anyway, go on, Starsky. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's a tough question because I don't know.
Well,
Currently, we mostly have everything we need to keep our defensive operations with night goggles and weapons and
well, what
things
about
like that.
what about ways to donate to or to help assist the rebuilding in the places that are actually getting hit the most right now? Is there anything they can do about that to help the people themselves if they can't help defense?
I know that one of the most crucial things right now in Ukraine is rebuilding the power grid. Every time after Russian strikes, we have to rebuild different transformators and power lines and things like that. That's very important. I don't know all the details. I'm a military, but yeah, I think that is important.
Okay,
Well,
great.
you had said a while back that generators were really critical, and it seems like you guys are doing a little better on power. But is that still something that if somebody says, I'd like to help, are generators still something that would be productive?
I think so, because our small business, for example, uses a lot of generators to power their stores and like grocery stores and things like that. So those would be useful, of course.
Would power banks, like, a nice chunky thing that can give a person lots of energy while it's turned off, would probably be a popular thing for your average citizen in the wrong place.
Yeah, could be.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around give a person energy while it's turned off. You're aware that they don't plug themselves into it, Dick, correct? You're aware of that, right?
I hope so. I hope so.
Oh.
Well, I have two more super chats if you gentlemen don't mind.
Please.
From level 70. Why doesn't Ukraine use flamethrowers? You could make an entire Russian battalion disappear by lighting their breath. Thank you, level 70. That.
Well, first you got to give them the vodka. I mean, they got enough supply problems.
Yes.
I don't think getting them the vodka is going to be a hard. I think you can assume that they've got that one covered.
I think it's too pleasant an ending for them if they hate the vodka. Okay, but for Stephen Walsh, for 100, Starsky, should the great video game Stalker be nominated a national treasure?
Absolutely.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know that this game was created. So, among the first games in the history of game development, this game was created using photogrammetry and pictures and realistic textures of the very area of the Pripyat and Chernobyl, and it was created by Ukrainian developers. And one of those developers, unfortunately, died recently in battle. So I think that, yeah, absolutely, it could be pronounced Ukrainian national treasure. Why not? But we have a lot of those, actually.
Actually, I had a couple of questions about that, but I got one. I want to follow up on a question that was asked earlier and that we didn't follow up on. I think this is going to be for both Starsky and Macmillan. Before we do, just to point out how bad alcoholism is in Russia. They during World War II, at the start of World War II, they enacted their own prohibition, so they made alcohol illegal. And they noticed that their planes started crashing, and nobody could figure out why their planes were crashing. Well, it turned out that engineers were bleeding the brake lines and drinking the alcohol out of the brake lines of the planes. And yeah, so in order to keep their aircraft in the air, and basically they couldn't win the war unless they repealed prohibition, so that these guys could drink and wouldn't start stealing the alcohol out of the fucking brake lines from the aircraft. That's how bad it is.
Yep.
So having said all,
and
yeah,
that
please.
sounds like something you make up as a joke, but it isn't. It's very well documented truth.
Yeah, it is. The people actually are extremely warm and charming and friendly. They are also heavily self-medicated with alcohol. It's a depressing place to be in. I was there when I was 16, and they're handing me vodka, and they're just like, "You're not drinking?" I was like, "No, thanks, I'm okay. I'm 16 years old." They're like, "You're," and they're getting offended I'm not drinking with them, and it's a huge, yeah. But yeah, it's insane. So I did want to ask. There was a question earlier about the HIMARS and the range of the weapons, and why the U.S. and other countries are not sending weapons of further range. And I was asking, I was hoping that maybe Starsky could enlighten us if he feels that that is a deficit that needs to be corrected, and or why it's been that way. And then I'd also like to have Commander McMillan follow up. Sorry, Commander PacMan follow up on that one.
I think the best way to understand the reason would be to ask specifically our partners. And the reason why we need those long-range missiles is because there are targets such as strategic air bases used by their strategic aviation that launches those missiles at Ukrainian cities. And we need some kind of measures to combat those operations performed by their strategic aviation. And also they can use a lot of fuel storages, ammunition storages that are located just far enough so our current missiles cannot reach them. And we need to be able to eliminate those as well. So that's one of the reasons why we need them, and why our partners hesitate to give them to Ukraine is basically because they're afraid that probably Ukrainians will start shooting at, I don't know, Russian cities, trying to retaliate and stuff, which makes absolutely no sense, because Ukraine is winning because we are not fighting against civilians.
Commander?
So, yeah. I don't disagree, but I think there are other aspects that need to be weighed in. Number one, I think the biggest fear is that by giving Ukraine longer ranged weapons, the Russians would see that as an escalation that threatens them, and it would encourage them to ratchet up themselves by going to a WMD level. I think that was one of the main concerns. But I think as the war has worn on, the reluctance to give Ukraine the longer range weapons is beginning to wear out, or wear off rather. I think a lot of people are realizing if the Russians are doing, as they are doing, deliberate strikes against civilian targets, that's it's not an official red line that's been drawn, like if you drop a nuke, then we're going to impose a no-fly zone or something. But I think that increasingly people being governments, NATO governments, are seeing it as a situation where, yeah, perhaps giving Ukraine the ability to strike targets deep inside Russia might be appropriate, given what the Russians have already done.
Well, and it's turned out now that they actually have that capability on their own, which kind of surprised everyone.
Yes, and I think that caught a lot of people by surprise.
Has that made it more likely where people are like, okay, they have the ability, they haven't struck Moscow, they haven't, just dropped it on Putin's door. Is that helping to alleviate?
I'm sure that is a major part of the metric that's being used to determine whether or not giving them longer range strike capabilities is something we are willing to allow. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I've spaced my other questions, so give me a minute and I'll remember. I had another one, but
well, perfect timing, because Claire's got a couple of shout outs she can do, and that gives everybody a chance for a regroup. If Claire's handy. I forgot to check.
Claire's handy. She's here. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Zom 1103. Just wanted to say the fudge pillow is great to cuddle with at the end of the day. Mine seems to like watching the X-Files. Okay. And from level 70, Starsky, did Max get his new laptop?
I'm not sure about the laptop. He was talking about it just yesterday or 2 days ago. He was trying to find charging stations and a laptop for our press service and charging stations for the guys. Not sure if he was successful. I gotta ask him, because today, we didn't communicate today. There was this stupid missile strike, and we were a bit busy and separate.
Okay. Well, thank you. All caught up for now. Back to you guys.
All righty. Let's see. I think Nick might be ready by now, or am I just blowing fluff in the wind?
Yeah, clearly you've never watched my show. No, sorry, no, I got distracted. For a minute anyway, but yes, sorry.
If you aren't ready, I have a comment I'd like to make, follow up to something that was talked about earlier, and that was regarding the stalemate situation that we are seeing apparently on the front. First off, we have the issue of the weather and the fact that the ground is simply not conducive to either side trying to conduct offensive operations. So I think once we get a hard freeze that would allow something like that, we may see something more dramatic occur. The second part of that equation is, and this applies primarily to the Ukrainians, they're not going to commit to an offensive until they know they have the situation in place where it will succeed. The Russians, I don't think, are going to commit to offensives simply because they don't have the capability anymore. They've kind of bled out their forces. They have ammunition shortages. They have logistic problems. All of that adds together that okay, if they do, it's just going to be, the third battle of the Somme, or in this case, the third battle of Bakhmut, where you just send waves of people out of the trenches and they get mown down. So that accomplishes nothing but raising their casualty count. And while I like to say that the Russians are shown a certain degree of ineptitude in this war, I don't think they're that inept that they're going to do that. They'll continue low-level attritional warfare in that sector. So I think what we're waiting for is for the Ukrainians to find a exploitable weakness in the Russian lines, as they did both up by Kharkiv and in the south with Kherson, where they can send a powerful force to hit the line and make substantial gains without having to risk going into a massive frontal assault, which will cause huge casualties, which is about all the Russians can do at this point. Does that make sense?
Very much.
Okay.
Very much. Let's see here. We've got a couple of shout outs to do. And should we say, Nick, did you want to bow out? Should we be saying goodbye to...
I'm going to need to bail. But thank you guys for having me. It was a delight as always. A couple of things for those of you. I think my channel In Time. I think hopefully you can find it in the description. I think you can. So I hope those of you who want to check that out. We're going to have Starsky on we have him on every Friday 1 p.m. Eastern. So we usually have Commander McMillan. Somebody I think took the PacMan thing seriously. They're like, his name is Commander McMillan. I was like, yeah, I'm aware. So I was getting some flack in the live chat for that one. So
I'll answer to just about anything, so it's not a problem.
But
yeah, especially free drinks.
Yeah, amen. Well, he needs those. That's part of the contract on him showing up on a show. He's like, I'll show up, Nick, but you're going to have to give me some alcohol.
Actually, no, I'm a teetotaler. Well, not quite, but close to it.
But thank you guys very much for having me on. And I had hoped to stay on for another half hour. I'm not going to make it. So I'm going to have to say this a half hour early. But Starsky, you have in 30 minutes, you will be in the new year, and in 30 minutes, you will be looking back at 2022. And on behalf of everyone In Time, and if I may be so bold, on behalf, I think, of the Shills who would support this statement, may your 2023 see the return of you, that which was stolen in 2022, your life, your normalcy, and may 2023 see the return of all Ukrainians, that which was taken from them by the Russians. Good sir, and please, Happy New Year, and thank you very much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you so much, buddy.
Awesome.
Have a great night, all, and Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. Take care, buddy. We'll see you real soon
Nick.
here.
Happy New Year, Nick.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Cool. So yeah, we got a couple of shout outs we can do here, and then we will see where we're at. We don't want to keep Starsky late today or anything, but we do hope he can just hit the midnight mark so we can do a proper Happy New Year.
Okay. From Stephen Walsh. Again, thank you, Stephen. Starsky, can you talk about innovation in drone warfare that has been brought to light? The Fimi drone can drop water balloons on neighbors. Can you comment on those techniques?
Yeah, we use some let's say industrial drones that can carry several mortar shells, and those are used by different units on our front lines. Of course, flying toilet was a great invention in my opinion, and there's so many things that were invented during this year in the Ukrainian army and our voluntary units as well. It's really hard to count. There was even a drone carrying, I saw a drone carrying RPGs, and there was also an idea to create a drone shooting the machine gun. But I'm not sure whether it's a good idea because there's a recoil and it won't be able to shoot precisely. But there's a lot of things that were made and a lot of things that we still cannot talk about.
Well, thank you for that. That's all. Very innovative indeed. From RC 450, Slava Ukraine, God bless you all. Thank you, RC, and Happy New Year.
Big thanks, everybody. It's been a great show for super chats and shout outs and stuff, and we'll be able to do some real good with what comes from today. Big shouts. Thanks, everybody. Huge. Let's see here. So we've got 20 minutes to hit the Happy New Year mark, and then we'll quickly wrap her up and whatnot. I totally lost my train of thought. I totally fucked that up. I'm sorry.
How about Sam's shout out of the week? Let's go there.
Yeah. We're doing last week's again because Yeah, that's just how useless I am today at everything. It's
Well, it is the end of the year. We'll give you a pass.
yeah, I'm really struggling here today. Let me get over to even see what it is, because I don't even know. Oh,
Streamlabs is saying it's the Etsy t-shirts. It's the t-shirts again this week. Is that true?
that's right. Yeah. Let me open it up here, and I can get it on screen and everything and whatnot. I'm so struggling today.
In the
Sorry.
meantime, Starskys, there's a couple of questions that are a little more lighthearted for you. Like they would like to know if there are New Year's traditions that you may or may not be able to celebrate right now, and also if there are more more females among Russian soldiers. Pick either one or both.
I know that we captured some of Russian females as POWs. There were such cases, but they're not numerous. Okay, I think that there was one or two, something like that. And as for the New Year's traditions, honestly, I don't remember the last time I had a proper New Year. Probably I will go visit my father tomorrow.
Oh, that's good.
And that is good. That is good. Also, what is your favorite Sepultura album?
So I think it was oh my god, how was it called? Nation? Probably that one.
Good choice.
Yeah, because there's like a bunch of tracks that I like, and also there was a new singer because Max Cavalera has a Russian wife, and because of that, he supports Russians. He supports Russian aggression. So I don't really like Max Cavalera, even despite the fact that he was my favorite singer. So that was probably my favorite album of Sepultura.
I would have gone with that too. Great album, great band. Oh, very good. I have a real like for their stuff. Because it's not just heavy; it's also very technical. It's very good, very good. RC Starsky. Oh, sorry.
Also, Max Cavalera was only playing using 4 strings, because like he's not very good at playing guitar. I think I play better guitar than Max Cavalera.
I'd go with it. I'll beg you on it.
Damn right. Damn right. Oh, let's see here. Is there any is there people planning little get-togethers and safe zones for New Year's for tonight and whatnot? Like, I hope there's a lot of people partying over there right now. You know. Oh yeah.
Yeah, actually, in Bucha we have a Christmas tree, and by the way, very important thing is that Ukrainians voted to celebrate Christmas on 25th of December, like all the normal people around the world. And not sure if we'll be celebrating it in January. I think it would be a good idea to abandon the celebration in January because, again, too many holidays is not healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that starting from the next year, we will be celebrating Christmas together with everybody, together with our friends from around the world.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. I love it when it lines up. It makes it more fun for everybody, right? Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. YouTube Studio is going psychotic today, telling me to put ads in the show. We never put ads in the show. Stop bugging me. I don't understand why I can't turn that off. I've got it turned off. Yeah, I don't know. Personal complaint, just driving me crazy. It's one of those things. If you produce shows, you know what I mean. Let's see. We got about 15 minutes. So, Commander, anything you wanted to get in with before it's all shits and giggles?
Not really. I think we've covered a lot of what's going on and what's likely to be going on, militarily speaking. What I'm really interested in, and I don't think I've seen much discussion of it, is when the war does come to a conclusion, the issue of rebuilding Ukraine, repairing all the horrific damage that's been done to civilian infrastructure across the entire country, of getting all the people who've been forcibly relocated back, that kind of stuff. And I really think that's almost as important in some ways as winning the actual victory.
Good point.
Yeah, it's a good point, and unfortunately, there are some things that I don't understand how to make possible. For example, returning all the people that were kidnapped by Russian troops back to Ukraine. There are some subjects, some topics that require multiple specialists with big experience to discuss and to find some kind of solution. And I hope that sooner or later those solutions will be found.
Yeah, exactly.
Very much. We got a couple of shouts there, Claire.
Yes, we do. From Julie Nor for 100 Norwegian krone. I wish everyone here a happy new year. Thank you, Shills, for all you do. I am now going to my mom and say I love you. Remember your families. You never know how long you have your loved ones. Thank you for that lovely sentiment.
Great shout, Julie. Yes. And Happy New Year to you too.
Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to your mom. Yeah. From 877 Swiss miss for 10 Swiss francs. Happy New Year, a year of victory and many snacky for the cats. I believe those are cats. Yes. Okay. Many snackies for the cats. Yes, I agree. Okay. Keep them happy. Thank you, 877 Swiss miss.
That was cute. That was cool.
Yeah, that is. All right. Back to you guys.
All right. So yeah, let's see here. We could do the let's take a quick look back, Starsky. How about a tale from a New Year's past, and from days gone by, funny or maybe embarrassing or
Oh my God. Again, I don't really remember the last time I had a proper New Year. Last New Year, like the New Years that I celebrated when I was a teenager, they're really hard to remember because I was drunk. The last New Year I cannot remember because I'm old, and
you are not. No.
I think I gotta make it's a good thing that I'm a YouTuber now, because I can just make videos to remind myself what I did last year. But yeah, last year I celebrated as a single person with a dog for the first time in years, and it felt good. It felt great, I think.
That's cool. That's cool. I myself, we had a New Year's one year, and man, we were like 16 and just getting our licenses and stuff. And we had like people on the hood of the car, and we were driving up and down the road pretty slowly, but still just being completely reckless at like 2 a.m. One guy fell off, broke his leg. We had to rush him into the hospital to help him get fixed. That was a crazy New Year I'll never forget. It was just ridiculous. But, what are you going to do? Claire, how about yourself? Got a New Year's tale from days gone by to share?
I've never really gone to like large parties or anything. It's always been like just quiet celebrations, I like to have a glass of wine, maybe a cheese plate, or share some good food, wine, and company conversation, small. But this year, keep it really small. It's been a rough year for a lot of people. So,
Indeed.
and it's I find it difficult. I don't know myself, not to take celebration away from anybody, but when I see around me others not doing so well, it's hard to let go that way and just pretend I don't see what I see. So, I toast to all the people that are having a hard time, and just that I hope that in 2023, like Nick had said, that the Ukrainians are giving back everything that they lost, including some time and some peace and some sleep, and just be able to move forward in their sovereignty to get back what is theirs, and not have to keep fighting just to keep what rightfully belongs to them in the first place. So, that's it. Sorry, not a very happy New Year's story, Dig, but yeah, that's where I'm at. So, you asked. Well,
I don't have a New Year's story per se, but I do have an interesting New Year's related issue, which is that one of my great regrets in the Navy was not being on watch on New Year's, because traditionally in the Navy, you write your midnight entry, and you do this every day of, ship is underway, doing this, so forth. But when you do it on New Year's, you're supposed to do it in rhyming poetry. And I always wanted to try to do that, and I never got the opportunity.
Oh, I have one. So, last New Year, I celebrated on duty on my base, and actually, yeah, so I do that actually a lot. Now I remember, because in my brigade, I as much as I remember myself, I was always on duty on my base, observing our guardsmen and stuff like that. Because usually, if you don't drink and you don't have personal life, or both, like me, you are usually assigned for being on duty,
Right.
on the base. When I was a sergeant, and then when I became an officer, I was always assigned for this stuff on a New Year's Eve. But I didn't really give a damn about it, because I had my laptop, and I think even a flight simulator, so I could relax a bit. Yeah, but it was always like that, because I usually don't drink and I have no personal life.
Well, okay. We got to go to Commander 401 as well, but we got a few shout outs. So let's switch over to Claire, and we're coming up on New Year's here in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So we're really close.
Okay, from Zong 1103 14, Starsky, would you be interested in making an in-depth series at how Russian propaganda works?
Absolutely, and I'm trying to do that as much as I can, because there's so many things to say about it. Sometimes when me or my colleagues post some kind of specific information about like Russian losses and things like that, it inflicts a huge butt hurt in Russian trolls, and then we understand that so that works, and I think that probably I should consider doing those episodes about it.
Oh, good. And from BR Boden for 200 Norwegian krone to Starsky, are you finally going to learn how to fly a drone and not just how to shoot them down?
I wish I could, but the thing is, currently we cannot fly drones freely as previously, and as soon as I launch my drone, I can be approached by some guys from SBU, from our security service, and asked questions. So maybe after the war, yeah, I would prefer flying my flight simulator. Luckily, I have this opportunity at this place where I am now.
Yeah, but honestly, isn't it more fun to shoot them down right now? Like seriously.
Of course,
Yes.
it's very funny. The problem is that the one that I shot down, it didn't explode like those that are flying currently.
Bummer too, right? It would have been cool to see it just bam, explode.
Yeah.
Let's go to Commander there for a New Year's story, and we've got 4 minutes till midnight, so you're on the clock, Commander.
Honestly, as I said, I don't really have much to relate in terms of a story for New Year's because I typically don't celebrate it. I'd end up going to bed early.
We're in the middle of a mix-up though, because I meant Commander 401. Because I totally fucked that up. My fault. Sorry, everybody. You got 3 minutes now. 401. There you go.
New Year's story. Last New Year's, spent it on the Shills. Wasn't an official shill yet. Was worried about your country, Operator Starsky, because all the signs were there, and this year actually turned out it was better than anyone reasonably could have expected a year ago. Ukraine still exists. We didn't get a pile of people who wanted to do in democracy here, and Europe seems to be holding together, and there's just a lot to look forward to in the next year. And Dick, are we going to do an after show with music like last year?
Oh, yeah, coming up in 2 hours. So, 4 p.m. Pacific. So figure it out for yourself. We're starting, get your drinks ready and whatnot. And we're going to go until I can't fucking do it any longer. So it's probably going to be crazy, insane, out of control, and probably get us in trouble playing music and stuff too. But hey, what happens? We'll see. What are you going to do?
Okay.
Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, Operator Starsky, and may peace for your country come in the new year.
Indeed.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Happy New Year, Commander 401.
Indeed. And we do have a shout out that just came in. If Claire's handy and ready, and then we're basically at New Year's.
I am ready. Agneta donated 2603. Happy New Year to everyone. That's the chat. Oh, and one more in our chat here from Xavier Estrada. Happy New Year, Shills and Starsky, for keeping us focused on supporting the victory of this beautiful people and country we have fallen in love with. To the fallen heroes, glory to Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Good shout, Xavier. Good one.
Excellent, Xavier. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So yeah, we're literally, I'm just sitting here watching the clock right now because we're about to hit midnight in Ukraine, and we'll pretend that on the screen is some missile launchers shooting down Russian jets because damn it, I had made it. It pissed me off. That damn hard drive had to go. Oh, I lost lots of stuff too. So I'm going to have to make some new gags and stuff, quite a bit. But oh well, whatever. But yeah, I mean, here we go. It's 1:59 Pacific, so that means we're literally seconds away from Happy New Year in Ukraine, and then we can let Starsky say goodbye to everybody and go to bed because I'm sure he's really wanting to.
It's been a rough few days, yes, Starsky?
Oh,
yeah. Actually, I'm gonna go cook something. Catch a rat in my closet. Yeah, it's a big problem actually.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then I will probably go to sleep.
Oh, good. We'll catch the rat first. They're noisy little buggers. Like, yeah.
Exactly. Oh, another shout in. Yeah, we just got time to do the shout out. Oh, the clock has just hit. It is Happy New Year to everybody in Ukraine. And we can't say enough how much we want those fucking Russian terrorist or bastards out of the country so that everybody can just live the life they want. Happy New Year, Starsky. Hope it's
Happy New Year, my friends. Thank you for being out there.
Thanks for being with us. We just, it's made the channel and everything even better to have, such good friends to hang out with all the time. I love it.
The last shout out was from Nurse Sean, and it is in Ukrainian, but I'm not going to try to mangle that. Maybe Starsky Kid, but it does mean Happy New Year. That much I can tell you.
Here, I dropped it in the in-call message there for you, Starsky.
Yeah, it is. New Year. Yeah.
Yep. Happy
Awesome.
New Year. Yep. How do you say that in Ukraine? It's like,
Z Novym Rokom.
oh, okay, there. Happy
Oh yeah,
New Year.
she just threw it in again in English. Awesome. Thanks, Nurse Sean.
I appreciate that, Nurse Sean. Yes, I was able to translate it.
Oops,
I just don't want to mangle it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't get my tongue around half the words. I kind of look up as I'm saying something to watch Starsky's reaction. Just like, oh, you're a butcher.
It's like I have this camera set up. This is my closet, actually. So the story behind this, when I moved to this new location, I didn't know about all the rats accommodating in this place, and because it's like a rural area and stuff, so I decided to get rid of them. So I bought plenty of different traps and poison and stuff, and traps didn't work. Those bastards are smart. And the poison didn't work either. They were like, thank you for appetizer, man, I will come back tomorrow, so I bought this electric trap, which is basically a genocide machine for rats. And I set it up. I toasted one of them finally. So now I'm watching this bastard running around the trap and like considering going lean or not, or things like that. That's why I'm peeking all the time at my phone.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I got to show this. Matt M2M on our channel here, fellow shill, just came up with this. Happy New Year to everybody in Ukraine. What a great picture that is. I don't know if he made it or if he found it, but great one. Great one. Love it. Oh, and we got level 70 in with another super chat. Look at that.
Yes, we do.
I love it.
Yeah, level 70. Starsky needs a cat. And another from Zom 1103. Happy New Year's, everyone. Always look forward to Starsky streams. Thank you, Starsky, and thank you, the Shills, for all you do. Well, thank you, Zom.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, all that talk of rats and traps probably has Starsky's appetite up even higher now. So I wonder if we shouldn't wrap it up, have another big, Happy New Year to everybody in Ukraine, and hope everything comes good in your way very soon, very soon. But, why don't we'll just do quick thoughts and then we'll let Starsky take us out. So, Commander McMillan, how about thoughts and wrap ups on the show?
I thought the show went really well. Good discussions, and best wishes to everyone in the upcoming year.
Good shout. Good shout. And let's see, Commander 401. This isn't going to get confusing at all.
Yeah.
What do you think? Little shout out and wrap ups there?
Yep. Happy New Year, everyone. Happy and safe New Year, Starsky. And 2022 was the year of the assholes getting their comeuppance. And as far as, that's worded kind of, what I meant was Putin's a dead man walking, and a lot of people's own words have come back to bite them in the ass. So let's hope for a better year, and have a great night, Operator Starsky.
Thank you.
Good shout out. Good shout out. Claire, what about yourself?
Yep, just a happy new year to everybody. A better 2023. May everything come to the proper resolution as we all hope for. Starsky, I wish you a happy new year and good sleep tonight and good eats, and get some rest. And thank you for all that you do.
Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, for myself, man, it has been so amazing getting to know you, developing a real friendship and whatnot. I wish it wasn't through such trying times, but I'm grateful it happened. And I just hope, everything comes good as soon as possible so that Ukraine stands as a free nation on its own. Fuck you, Putler. Fuck you. Happy New Year, everybody. And let's hand it over to Starsky himself to take us home.
Guys, thank you so much. As always, it was a great discussion, great questions, great people, familiar names in the chat as always. Thank you so much for supporting Ukraine, and thank you so much for being our friends, because the previous year showed that Ukraine actually made a lot of friends all around the world, and Ukrainians never forget about their friends. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year to you all.
Good words. Good words. So yeah, on that, pray for Ukraine, everybody. Remember, get in touch with your local people, members of government, and so on, and urge support for Ukraine. We have to keep the pressure up. And on that, let's give our best wishes out to everybody in Ukraine for an actually happy new year as we say goodbye for the last Ukraine update of 2022. Take care out there, everybody. We love you. See you soon.
Stay
Slava
safe.
Ukraini. Yes. Should I hit a button? I think we're done then, eh?
Yeah, just hit the button.
Okay.
Good night,
everybody. Oh, coming up in 2 hours, we're playing around for New Year's. We're going to have all kinds of fun, shits and giggles and whatnot. There is a redirect to the stream as soon as the credits roll, which I'm about to do now. Slava Ukraini, everybody. Good night.
It's over. Go home.